Hey, what's good, man? I'm your boy Jay.
I'm your boy Dre.
Welcome to the Dre and Jay Show. Before I get started, man, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate your view. But today we got an interesting topic, a topic that's affecting many millennials, many people that's coming out of college, and even students that's thinking about going into a four-year university. That's student loans. So the question we're proposing today is whether or not college is worth it because of the student loans that you incur. Dre?
That's a complex question and it's a complex answer. And there isn't a cut and dry, and it's one of those ones where it's a little bit of yes and no. I feel like there's two underlying questions with that. One is the debt worth it, and is the degree valuable? In terms of is the degree valuable, a lot of people would say no nowadays, but I'm a big proponent of education. I absolutely believe that college degrees are valuable. The thing about it is there's a lot of macroeconomic trends that have kind of shifted the jobs that were available even just 10, 15 years ago when we are getting out of high school, about to enter the workforce, will actually go off to college from what it is now. So in certain markets, if you have a particular degree, you may absolutely get a serious economic gain out of it. But if you're in a market where you can't get the most out of your degree, then you may have just actually put an albatross around your neck. Because think about it. Say, for instance, if you have a marketing degree, and marketing degrees are very, very valuable in metropolitan areas, but if you're living in a very rural community where there isn't a lot of business to even market, then you're not going to get the most out of it. You're not going to get the return on the investment. So there's a lot of different factors in there, and I feel that's a really big can of worms. What's your take?
I agree totally. It's almost like four subtopics in that one topic. Because if you get a degree, like I majored in business administration, and I'm doing decent for myself, but when I think about it, if I could go over again, I would have got a degree that specializes, meaning like a nurse. That's a specialization degree. I mean, you got a degree in something that you know this translates to a specific career. Like degrees like business administration are good because you can do a lot of different things with it, but it also doesn't really give you
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this with this degree. A degree is also worth it if you're going into a field where the pay ceiling is very high. Now, don't get me wrong. Say you get a hospitality major, eventually you can work yourself up to becoming a GM. But that might, depending on where you're at, where you're located, like you said, the job market, that could take 15, 20 years, 10 years, and is it worth it? Now, on the flip side, people without a degree, especially in rural areas, a lot of them are stuck working, certain fast food jobs, certain manual labor jobs that doesn't pay that much. And in that aspect, once again, a degree is worth it. But on the flip side, people that specialize without a degree in trades, such as HVAC, welding, different things like that, even auto mechanics, depending on what kind of company you work for and this, so on and so forth, they're making $25,000, $30,000 an hour, which in South Carolina, $60,000 is more than double the household income. Not one person, I'm talking about one person doubling the household income per capita in South Carolina. So depending on where you see is at, 60,000 may not sound like much, but in our state is actually a lot, especially for one person.
That's another thing to keep in mind too, and sorry to cut in on you, but there's a statistic that I saw. It was from the Young Turks, basically where they were citing household incomes in America, not household, individual incomes. Household was something different, but as an individual, if you make $30,000 in America, well, more than $30,000 in America, you roughly make more than half the population. Because I believe they cited 47 or 48% of the population in America makes $30,000 or less. So we're a country of roughly 320 million people. At roughly half, you know, 160 million people making that or less, roughly. You know,
it's a child, it's children. But hey, man, I gotta look that statistic up. That's eye popping. But it's just, man, and the reason why we brought this topic up is because, you know, all of us know people with master degrees that are making $32,000-$33,000. My wife is actually finishing her master's degree in March, and we had this conversation last week. She was telling me about jobs in our area, and I said, baby, listen, you know, at this point, anything less than 50,000. I mean, you're still younger in your 20s, and you're getting started, but anything less than 50,000. It's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it for the amount of debt you incur to get this degree. If it's anything less than 50, to me, you know, from my financial standpoint, I wouldn't even look at it. But the sad part of it, you just heard it. More often than not, that's not the norm to get that type of salary. And I would almost triple fold that in the South. In the South, that's definitely not the norm. You may go up to, you know, northeastern states, but I mean, you that's going to take it right back off when you talk about house values, property values, things like that. But I don't know, man. It's a question that, to be honest, if I could do it all over again in the state of South Carolina, you could go to any 2-year trade school for free. I might. Either I would go just get a trade and start a business for myself, or, you know, work for a good company like a BMW, a company that's going to pay me well, you know, like in Greenville area, something like that. Or I would go to the military and let the military pay for college. Because it sucks, man, when you get that piece of paper and you're applying for a job and they're saying, we want degree and experience, and all you got is this degree. And after degree and experience, the salary range is $28,000 to $32,000. But this is what many millennials are dealing with today.
Yeah. And one thing I can say, and this is all purely anecdotal, and this is just my personal experience, but if you had asked me this about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been probably completely opposite. And one of the things that I've seen is in the last few years, just with how getting a little bit of experience has changed the jobs that
it changes it, man.
Actually respond back when you get an interview and you actually get legitimate prospects. You know, I used to apply for certain jobs like and I know I'm qualified. I've done these responsibilities in other roles, and you know, you never get a call back. And sometimes certain businesses, you frequent them, and you end up seeing who get the position, who got the position, and you're like, not to put anyone down, but you're like, man, I know I'm better than them. I know I'm smarter than them. I know I can do the job 10 times better than they can do the job. And just over the last few years, even with the prospects, I remember coming out of college, there was only had one job prospect that was offering more than $40,000 coming out of college. I interviewed like 5 times and I didn't get it. But, you know, now at this particular point, the last time I was unemployed, the job and the salary range that I was getting, those were the salary ranges that I was seeing when I initially went to go get my degree. Like the jobs that are in that $45,000, $60,000 window, those were the jobs that were, hey, Mr. Hayward, can you come in for an interview? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I do feel that in some respects, because of that, the picture that kind of gets painted for some of our college kids coming out is a bit rosier and a little bit unrealistic in terms of, you know, you're gonna do your 4 years, you're gonna come out, and there's gonna be some company waiting here for you with a $45,000, $50,000 job. And that's not saying that that's not a reality for some.
It happens for some, but it's not the norm.
Not, you know, for most.
Not the norm.
But that's one of those things where, and now that I do have work experience, seeing some folks, fellow co-workers, friends that didn't have a degree, that didn't have any college experience at all, and seeing their job prospects versus my job prospects, now I'm starting to really see that difference. I'm starting to really see the differentiation between my prospects and theirs.
I feel what you're saying, and
like, it takes time for the payoff, basically.
I see what you're saying, but I just keep going back to when we first started the process of buying the home, and the lender we were working with said, well, you know, the current administration implemented in your, especially starting with the FHA loan, implemented, excuse my phone, implemented basically that your student loans would be counted in your debt income ratio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been wondering, like I've been looking on Facebook with some of my friends that didn't go to college, they're buying homes and, you know, different things like that. And it's simply because a lot of my friends that did go to 4-year universities and colleges, man, they got $40,000, $50,000 in student loan debt. That's counting towards their debt income ratio. So it's almost like, man, they're being shot in the foot. But going back to what you're saying, I totally agree, because now that we're starting to get more, instead of starting entry level, more mid-level type jobs, and you start to see the role you can get to, it's like, okay, if I didn't have this degree, it's no way that.
Yeah.
And the matter of fact, the battle I'm battling now, like I said, my wife is getting her master's. I'm thinking now, okay, this master's will qualify me for a little bit more, but is it worth it to accrue blah 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 to get this master's? So it's just a battle that a lot of millennials are facing.
No, I understand, and the one thing I would say to that situation in particular is, of course, it varies from each household and their setup. But my pops would always say this, especially when I was looking at colleges. He's like, look, wherever you go, as long as the teachers are qualified, as long as the knowledge is good, it's like nobody can take what's in your head. You know what you know. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the flashiest or the biggest name university, as long as they accredited and, you know, they're teaching a curriculum and it's actually a degree that you come out with knowledge and come out worth something. I say go for it personally, but you know, I don't know all the particulars of the situation as well.
Right. I see. You're gonna make a decision. But hey, man, it's a dynamic topic. Many different avenues we can go, and I want to reach one more place before we cut this video off.
Right.
Now, we've talked about in previous videos that we did that African American women, right, are the most educated group of women, most educated group in America, like subgroup in America, right? Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, how ironic is it that when this fact becomes a fact, that maybe a degree is worth it, but in my opinion, it's worth it far less now than it was 20, 30 years ago, if you understand what I'm saying. Is that, I'm finishing the question, is that just trends in the economy, or is there more to play with that? If you get where I'm going at.
No, I get what you're going at, and this is the big thing. Like, this is what I was getting at in the beginning. Like, a lot of the jobs that were available even 10, 15 years ago that were paying those types of salaries, they're getting offshore. Like, a lot of, basically, in a macro sense, what's happening with the American economy, high-paying, high-labor skilled jobs are being outsourced, broken down into different components to, like, India, the Philippines, wherever, where they can pay someone pennies on the dollar to do these aspects of the job. They bring, basically, importing low-cost, low-wage jobs. That's how come, and also keep in mind that in America, there isn't necessarily a lot of factors that's contributing to increased wages for workers. Like, most of the factors in the macroeconomic environment are the depressed wages. I say that because of what's going on with labor unions. Labor unions are having a harder time actually unionizing and forming. Right. Labor unions are one of the biggest things that drive good paying jobs. Like when you look in the quote unquote golden age of America, where it was manufacturing jobs, labor unions was at the forefront of that, getting a lot of people better working conditions, better schedules, and better pay. And you know, I've had about, including one school, college, whatever, I've had 10 jobs. I've never even had a job that's thought about a union.
Hey, well, not to cut you off, but I worked at Walmart first coming out of college. And the first video, one of the first videos they showed you was if somebody approaches you from a union saying, do not talk like it. Yes, major companies are scared of unions, man. And as you all know, the southern region, most of us are right to work states, meaning you can unionize all you want to. If you fire, you're fired. There's no, what they call them, bereavement. There's no grievance process. It's straight up right to work. You get fired, you get fired. And I mean, that's what happens when you don't have things like unions to protect workers.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of folks like because there's some places where, like Germany, I don't believe Germany actually has an official minimum wage on the books, but one of the things that they do have, they have some of the strongest unions in the world. So
they ain't going for none of that nonsense, basically.
Yeah, you know, you have other factors that's contributing, and it's a more balanced environment in terms of the employer and employees' interests.
I have a family member, man, an older family member. My wife, I had a family member, and she's like very high up, working for social services, and master's degree, had it for like 20 years, and like, you know, next to the director of social services, she, you know, and I looked at her salary, man, and I was like, for the job she's doing, her salary should be easily $20,000 more. I mean, easy. But I don't know, man. When you're in the state, you know, hey, even from law enforcement, man, you know, I come from law enforcement, not in it currently, but law enforcement officers in South Carolina, man, you have some law enforcement officers in South Carolina that's making like $10 an hour. It's putting their life on the line. I mean, it's, you know, it's borderline ridiculous. But hey, man, like we said,
this is definitely one we got to come back to, because there's so many different places we can go with continuing this one, and I feel like this is kind of like a gateway topic, because to fully flesh it out. Like, I feel there's a few different places you have to go.
Job trends and all kinds of stuff, man. Yeah. Hey, man, once again, I'm your boy Jay.
I'm Dre.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Peace.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.